Okay, let's step it up a level and let's have a look at some of the verbal reasoning questions. Right, so immediately you can see that this is a more meaty example. You've got a couple of paragraphs of information about, well, as it says there, a satellite-based augmentation-only system that improves the accuracy of satellite navigation signals over Europe, called EGNOS. Typically these passages reflect real-world situations, and I guess that's something to be mindful of, because if you did have knowledge of satellite-based augmentation-only systems that improve the accuracy of satellite navigation signals over Europe, and you had no life, then you must be careful that your knowledge of this doesn't intrude upon your answering of the question. You need to read this passage, and on the basis of only what's in this passage, answer which of the following statements are true, which of the following statements are false, and of the following statements, which can you not say whether they are true or false based upon what's in the passage. Okay, so take a moment to read through those two paragraphs and then look at the 4 questions that are in boxes that follow. For each of those, you need to decide which are true based upon the information in the passage, which are false, and which you can't say either way based upon what's in the passage. Again, I'll give you some panpipes so that you can relax, hopefully, while you're answering those, and then I'll come back to you again in about a minute. Okay, just wait for a moment for everyone to finish racking their brains. I hear that there's a lot of voting going on the chat rooms, which is great stuff. Let's see if it tallies with what I would have said, having composed the question. I think that quite often people with very high IQs, and you can pat yourselves on the back if you are one of these people, will argue the meanings of these questions until they're blue in the face. I think the main thing to do is to say what's the most logically likely answer given the information in the passage, rather than arguing it perhaps to the nth degree. But a good question shouldn't be ambiguous. Okay, let's talk about the first one there then. So EGNOS is a system that extends accuracy and enhances the capabilities of a range of other technologies. Let's have a check here. True. So as you can see in the very first sentence, it talks about improving the accuracy of satellite navigation signals and enhances the capabilities of a range of other technologies. So again, it talks later on that paragraph about agriculture, transport, pay-per-use insurance schemes, etc. So what you're looking for, it won't ever be the exact same word repeated there, but you can infer sufficiently that there's enough crossover to say that that is true. Okay, let's have a look at number 2. So there are currently no regulations governing operations, compliance or safety of EGNOS systems. Okay, so the answer to this one is cannot say. So nowhere in that passage does it actually refer to what existing regulations exist. So it says there about there's a safety of life service expected to be placed within a year, and various other kind of references about what it does, but nothing particularly about regulations. So you, even if, and this is where if you had intimate knowledge of EGNOS systems and you knew that they did have, there were regulations governing it, you mustn't let that intrude into how you would answer the question. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. So EGNOS will soon be able to take over many of the functions currently handled by other technologies like GPS. So have a look at what you put for this one. Okay, so the answer to this one is false. And it's a pretty definite false, because again, if you have a look in the first sentence, it refers to the fact that it's an augmentation only system. It improves the accuracy of satellite navigation signals across Europe. And then in the next sentence it talks about the fact that it improves current GPS signals. Because it says that it's an augmentation only system, it improves GPS systems, then you can infer from that that it would not take over many of the functions currently handled by other technologies like GPS. Okay, let's have a look at the fourth one. After trials and the different applications of EGNOS, European officials hope to sell the technology internationally. Well, again, a commercial service is under test and will also be made available next year. So again, it mentions that that will be made available, but it doesn't talk about whether that will be international or not. So strictly speaking, you cannot say from the information contained in the passage. Okay, so hopefully that generated a fair amount of debate and discussion amongst you, and hopefully there weren't any violent disagreements, but again, we're very open to hearing your thoughts and feedback following the programme if you'd like us to explain in any more detail about this. How I've set this up is that we've got 2 examples per test type. So let's have another go at a verbal example, and then we'll move on to numerical reasoning. Okay, so verbal reasoning question 2. This one is around an interesting piece of scientific research around merging DNA from 3 individuals to help with childbirth. So you can see often the topics chosen are quite interesting. Quite often they relate to current affairs. Quite often they don't actually relate to the job that you're applying for necessarily. But again, it's because no specialist knowledge is required to be able to answer these questions. And when I talk about tips for getting better at these, that's what you need to bear in mind. It really doesn't matter what the context is. You're looking for logically phrased arguments and whether they are true, false, or cannot say based upon the information in the passage. Okay, have a quick look at the questions here. I shall put back on my collection of panpipe music, and we will review in about a minute. Okay, thank you. Okay, hopefully you've had enough time to look through the 4 questions and are ready to run through. So, let's take a look at the first one there. One of the issues is the legality of a legal union between 3 consenting adults, 2 women and a man. Is that true, false, or cannot say, based solely upon the information in the passage? Well, the answer to question 1 is cannot say. There isn't actually any reference to the legality or otherwise of this union, and even though you may reasonably infer that this could be a concern, it's not actually mentioned in the passage. So, strictly speaking, you can't say from the information you've been provided with. Let's take a look at the second one. So the idea may seem fanciful, but it's only 3 years away from viability, and the Health Secretary has cleared the regulatory barriers. True, false, or cannot say? The answer's false. As you can see in the penultimate sentence, it says there are regulatory barriers. So we know that they're still here and in place. It said that the Health Secretary could rescind the ban without legislating, but it is assumed that that has not been done yet, so that's actually false. Okay, the next question. The woman donating the mitochondria that are healthy would be contributing 0.2% of the DNA for the child. Okay, so this comes from around about in the middle of the passage where it says the mother and father would supply 99.8% of its DNA with a small amount from another woman, the mitochondrial donor. So it's a simple bit of mathematics. It is less common in verbal reasoning tests because that's what we would call kind of a confounding variable. If someone weren't very good at mathematics, they could perform less well on this question as a result. But because it's such a simple piece of mathematics, it's kind of deemed acceptable for this question. So it's there as a bit of a heads up to say this might come in, but it's going to be incredibly simple maths, and it's really just a way of phrasing a question in a new and interesting way for you. So the answer is true, because 100% minus 99.8% is 0.2%. Okay, and then the final question there. The key scientific achievement by the scientists at Newcastle University is to have grown human embryos from fertilized eggs in the laboratory. Okay, so the answer to that one is false. It might have caused a few uproars there in internet land, but the key thing here is not that they've grown human embryos from fertilized eggs in a laboratory, but it's the fact that they've merged the DNA from 2 fertilized eggs in the laboratory. So that was what was unique and special and key about this example, not the fact that they've grown human embryos from fertilized eggs in a laboratory.